how to.
Now we'll ask, how do innovation managers survive an innovation project? So the point of view here is mostly from within a larger corporation. So you want to manage risk and reward by asking, well, is this, as we have all throughout, is this innovation idea feasible? What's its upside gain versus its downside risk? If it fails, will it take down the whole company? Bad idea. Will I get fired? Bad idea. Does the idea fit with the organization, or can it be made to fit? So of course, don't pursue an idea unless the potential reward justifies the potential risk. Get incremental approvals. And this depends a bit on your corporate culture, but don't always expect to get permission. Think about leveraging the input of suppliers. Customer endorsements can be very helpful as you develop the sport stage by stage. Beg, borrow, scrounge for resources. Try to get things done in a lean model, whether it means taking advantage of, well, let's just talk about this in a lunch seminar when everybody's essentially off the clock, or write a paper that can be presented at a conference in order to get feedback and show some level of success so that you have a little bit more to present than just, I have an idea. And at each stage, try to ask for the smallest possible commitment so that you can make incremental progress. Of course, leverage support from people who serve as your allies. So find out who has the knowledge and skills to contribute, figure out who has influence and whose support can be valuable, and that lets you in turn build toward relationships with higher level executives. An executive sponsor is particularly helpful. Listen to criticism because that helps make your idea better. So probe for hidden assumptions that may be embedded in an innovation strategy, and that will help you expose flaws and shortcomings to the harsh light of reality so that you don't find them after you've spent a lot of time and money. And of course, keep the best interests of the corporation and the innovation team firmly in mind. Listen well enough so that you are not only your own rigorous critic, but you hear others' criticisms and learn from them. That lets you recognize weaknesses. So understand what skills and job requirements are needed for this innovation. Be able to delegate responsibility. Don't hog all of the control yourself, because that will make you less able to scale up and less able to learn from other people and get things done. But it's a common mistake. So delegate to those who have the right competence, share the tasks, listen to their feedback and input. Recognize the need for control by top-level management, and pay attention, as you have throughout this course, to recognizing your own weaknesses and act decisively to compensate either internally or with the help of other team members so that you can move forward. Public exposure may not be good for you, so recognize what your actual progress is, and do not be careless about public exposure, because it can fuel the competition to try and catch up and can jeopardize your ability to protect your intellectual property, particularly with a patent. Of course, postpone any celebration. Don't declare victory until you've had some. So postpone it until there's real accomplishment in the marketplace, because premature publicity internally and externally will raise expectations that you may end up dashing, and then you'll have to deal with this sort of, oh, that failed already, why would we invest again? And that's just not helpful. Balance profit opportunities with market share. So in the early days of the web, eyeballs were the product, but eyeballs aren't money. So make sure that you pay attention to what it is that you get. And look, if Uber and Lyft have enormous market share and they lose on every ride, what's the market share for? So you need some level of profit or a very, very willing investor for continuity. So match the strategy to however you define the terms of success. And of course, you are not in a position arbitrarily to decide to sacrifice profit and cash flow for market share. And yet, it's a mistake others have made before you. Adapt to the life cycle stages so that you can recognize when change is required to match an opportunity presented in the life cycle, when needs and requirements of an innovation project change with a technology cycle change, so that you can pay attention to adjusting the product strategies to adapt to the stage of a competing product's life cycle, so you can catch a wave of innovation as a competing product is waning. You want to be able to promote the value of an innovation. Established policies may form a kind of inertia that would harm an innovation project. So sell the value of relaxing strict control measures that might get in your way. That can be tricky depending on the culture that you're in, but you want to be able to convince top management when needed that different procedures could facilitate and accommodate the unique nature of an innovation project. Don't make us do it this old way with so many steps if that's going to stifle our chance to see if this could lead to something big and new. And then a can-do attitude is always helpful. Innovation managers must provide both management, in other words, making things happen, and a kind of visionary leadership. It's always more pleasant for your team and more successful for your innovation to delegate whole tasks rather than slices of it, because people feel more invested, more ownership, and do a better job. Leverage outside resources, and that helps you get a sense of objectivity. Of course, pay attention to non-disclosure agreements so that you're not letting somebody outside get view of an innovation that you haven't protected yet. So watch out for those non-disclosure agreements from the very outset. And that gives you chances to provide both leadership and management skills. Of course, it's good for your reputation to undercommit and overperform. You should feel as if your own money is at stake in the project, and leverage whatever kinds of alliances that you can. Leverage publicity only when it will be helpful, and be ready to recognize when it's time to pivot or when an innovation project needs to be redirected or needs to come to a halt.